Welcome, impactful parents. Today we're going to talk about how do we as parents build resilience when it feels like our kids don't listen, the world is going down the drain, and we just want to go to bed and hide. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos, and I'm founder of The Impactful Parent. And I help parents of school-age children who want to be one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school. And today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So, welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Kate Lund. Dr. Kate is a clinical psychologist, resilience expert, author, and the host of the Optimized Mind podcast. She works with parents, athletes, and students to build resilience and thrive. Dr. Kate is also the author of a book called Bounce: Help Your Child Build Resilience and Thrive in School, Sports, and Life. And also the author of a book called Step Away: The Keys to Resilient Parenting. I'm happy to have Dr. Kate on the show today to share practical tactics for building everyday resilience and mental toughness, whether it means surviving a tantrum or tackling teen challenges or bouncing back from those ugly cry moments that we all have. I'm happy to have Kate here and dive in to figure out how we can deal with things so much better. Thanks for being here, Kate.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is great. I'm glad to be here.
Now, you talk about resilience not as bouncing back, but as adapting and growing through challenges. So, for parents who feel stretched thin, what's the first small step that they can take to model resilience for their kids in everyday life?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And the thing that really is so impactful is if we as parents can find a way to modulate our stress response such that we can start each day level. We can start here as opposed to up here, such that when a challenge hits, boom, we're going to escalate, perhaps even to the point of shutdown. So I teach everyone I work with, really, athletes, parents, just anyone who comes across my practice, a very simple technique called the relaxation response, which was developed by a physician back in the 1970s, before mindfulness and things of that nature were a thing, but has become the cornerstone of the mind-body medicine program at many hospitals in Boston or around the world, really. Super simple technique. Come up with a word or a phrase that you find soothing in some way, and you breathe. And I have folks, I know I told you it was super simple, and I have folks practice 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes later in the day, so they can start to internalize what it feels like to be in that even modulated space. And that becomes more and more a part of their baseline with consistency and practice. And it can be practiced in those moments when a tantrum is happening, when they're about to enter into a stressful conversation, or they need to have a challenging conversation with their child, or something else that raises their stress response happens in the house. So it can be taken around in our back pockets as well, but a very, very effective technique.
So, what I hear you saying is that it doesn't really matter what the word is as long as it's special to us and it calms our nerves. And so, it could be anything. And
Mhm.
also, it doesn't matter how we breathe. We just need to breathe intentionally. So we don't have to take like big, breaths where everybody can see. We just have to think of our word and breathe intentionally.
Precisely, spot on. And so I told you, super simple. And it's so simple that folks are, might be kind of questioning, well, hey, does that really work? But I really encourage folks to give it a consistent try for a period of time, because I get the feedback that this really does work, and this brings you down to center so that you're more able to ride those stressors that are inevitably going to happen more like a wave as opposed to something that's going to knock you down.
Now, you talk about the oxygen mask analogy. You often emphasize that parents putting on their own oxygen mask first is really important. So, what are one or two immediate and maybe non negotiable step away techniques that an overwhelmed parent can implement today to regulate their own stress response? And how does that immediate self regulation fundamentally change their interaction with their child?
Well, so the first go to is the relaxation response that we just sort of reviewed. And to really have that at the ready whenever something stressful happens, a situation arises, they can pull that out of their back pocket, reset in the moment by thinking of the word, taking some breaths. They don't have to practice in those instances for the full 5 minutes, but definitely having that at the ready in case something stressful comes up and they need to reset so that they can re-engage, because doing this allows us to re-engage with our children in a more robust way, allows us to re-engage, handle the situation, respond to a situation as opposed to react, that sort of thing. And then having a non-negotiable short period of time set aside each day, and it can look different for all of us, but to journal or reflect or listen to our favorite music or take the time to call a friend. It doesn't have to be a big giant chunk of time, but just a small bit of time each and every day to again help us in our parenting, in ourselves, reset and be able to come back and engage in a more kind of full and robust way and in a way that we're proud of.
I love this because it's all so intentional and none of it's easy. Like a lot of this is not easy, but these are such good things because we affect our kids so much with how we react. And we're teaching them how to react to things. So I say it time and time again that if we're a yeller, then our kids become yellers. If we throw things when we're angry, chances are kids are going to start throwing things when they're angry too. So they're watching and they're learning. And if we can take these techniques that you're teaching us today and pause, keep our composure, and then come back, we are not only becoming better parents, but we're becoming better role models. We're teaching our kids how to handle stressful situations better. And a lot of times we wonder, why is our kid acting so crazy? Why can't they pull it together? And then we don't really look at how we showed them how to pull it together. And so we really are teaching so much to our kids just by taking care of ourself in this regard. It's an amazing techniques and just lessons that we're learning.
100%. You're spot on. It's like we're modeling these things, and in modeling, we're helping our kids to become resilient in and of themselves, helping them to manage through the difficult moments more robustly and in a way that they're proud of.
Now, your book encourages parents to release the myth of perfect parenting. So, what's the single most damaging consequence of this pursuit of perfection on a parent's resilience? And what is that resilient reframe you teach them to use instead?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it's this idea that there is no perfection in parenting. That just simply does not exist. It's a myth, as you mentioned. And so we want to really help parents to embrace this idea of doing the best they can within their own unique context. And everybody's context is different, right? We're coming from different places, different backgrounds, different experiences. Our children are different. Our children have different needs. Siblings will have different needs. I mean, all of it, right? So avoiding the comparison trap, avoiding falling into that lens or that mindset of, oh, well, I'm seeing all these perfect pictures and family vacations and family events and things happening on social media. And wow, they've got it much better than I do. And we have to help parents understand that those types of things aren't always real, and that we need to look at our context and do the best, create the best foundation for us to thrive within that context, as well as our children to thrive within our own family's context and within their own context. And to avoid that comparison trap is the fundamental principle that we want to help all of us to integrate.
Your work focuses on both parental resilience, which is the step away, and child resilience, which is what you call bounce.
Mhm.
What is the most significant pillar of child resilience? Whether it's managing their emotions or, I don't know, building confidence, that parents actually struggle to foster in their children when their own resilience is just so low.
Yeah, it's a great question. And like us in our parenting and as people, the adults, we want to help our kids to build a level foundation, a modulated stress response, which is going to help them manage their emotion and tolerate frustration. It's going to help them to not escalate and not shut down when they hit a challenge, in the classroom, with friends, on the playing field, wherever it might be. Challenge is going to come up for our kids and for us each and every day. So I always encourage parents to help their kids to also integrate the relaxation response into their day to day. And depending on the developmental stage of the child, kids might be able to practice on their own, might be able to, focus in on that. But it can also, it's such a simple, easy to kind of keep in your back pocket technique that parents can practice it with their kids for short spurts of time. And I find that very, very effective. And I've heard wonderful results about how a child who, might get a bad test grade back, or might have a presentation that they're very worried about, or might be afraid to raise their hand in class, can kind of recenter themselves when they feel that stress, that anxiety coming up. And then all of a sudden, they're able to raise their hand. They're able to talk in front of their peers, answer a teacher's question, or not be so rattled by any other challenge that comes up for them. So really, that's the first recommendation for how we can help our kids build that level foundation.
You use a strengths based approach to a lot of your lessons. So, how can parents shift their perspective from focusing on a child's challenges
Mhm.
or what they can't do to leveraging the child's existing strengths to build their resilience, especially in areas like sports and school performances?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because it's exactly what we want to do. Because every child's going to have their relative challenge, right? We're not all going to be good at everything. So, we want to figure out then what are the child's strengths. We want to really have a sense of awareness of what's happening for them. Where are they gravitating towards in terms of their passions and the things they want to develop, explore. And we want to help our kids to identify, well, what are the things I'm good at, and what do those look like for me? How do they play out in everyday life? And then from there, figure out how we can help our children to use those strengths to navigate some of the challenges, and to really capitalize on those strengths to develop a deeper engagement in areas where they're strong, so that that will then help to build their confidence, and their abilities moving forward. But it's really, how can we, the most important piece of this is helping our kids see what they're good at, see what's going right, as opposed to just where the challenges are, just what's going not so right.
It's so hard to do as a parent because we tend to focus on the lack. I think not even as a parent, as a person, we tend to focus on lack versus abundance. Like, what do we not have instead of appreciating what we do have? And this part of parenting is no exception, where we tend to go, oh, there's a lack here. I need to feel it because I'm the parent. I want to fix it because parents, we're fixers. We want to fix, we want to provide, we want to make sure that our kids are happy, healthy, and we overextend, a lot of us, more than we should. And so this is just such an important conversation to have about all of that. And about it just rounds it out.
100%. And one of the things we can do to help us as parents, as well as our children, focus not so much on the lack, but rather on what we do have and what is going right, is this exercise called the daily wins exercise, where at the end of each day, we sit down and we jot down 3 to 5 things that went well on a given day, as opposed to just focusing in on the would have, could have, should have, and all of the hard things and the challenges that came up. We need to contend with those because those are real. But if we only focus on those, we're really holding ourselves back in a lot of ways.
You also speak a lot about language. And for the audience, what are some specific phrases or ways of communicating that parents can use daily to praise the process, rather than the outcome? As we are talking about, always focusing on the lack, that's what we want. With the process is so much more important than the outcome. So how do we as parents praise our kids, talk to them so that they know that we can see their effort, we can see their problem solving, we can see that they are trying it again, and we can let go of whether or not they won or they got the perfect grade. You know what I mean by this.
Yeah, I totally do. And that's such a great question. And so it's like, praising the effort, you're doing a great job, or, that feels like it's challenging. How can we help you try that from another angle? Or, wow, that was great the way you got up and tried that again. It's okay. We want to let our kids know it's okay to not succeed the first time out of the gate. It's normal, it's natural, right? And we want to engage with them in an authentic way around all of that. So, if it's developmentally appropriate, sharing some of our own challenges as kids with our own children, not in a way of saying, well, this is how I handled it and this is how I move forward. Not that at all, but rather giving them the sense that we also struggled at points. There were challenges for us. And then from that point, problem solving with them on how to overcome whatever it is they're dealing with or facing in the moment, that kind of a thing. Because we never want our kids to see us as these infallible, people who have never made mistakes, because that's a really important message to give to our kids. It's okay to make mistakes. The important thing is getting back up and moving forward.
And where do you see parents struggle with this when it comes to athletics? Because I think that's one of the, it's either athletics and grades. I see it the most when my parenting practice. Like, it's so hard for parents to not give advice and say at the end of a game, going, you did a really good job, blah, blah, blah. And there's always a but next time, you could do this better, or it was this, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just grades are the same way, truly, what you got the B, but you didn't get the A. So what could we have done next? And maybe we could have done this next time. And some of that is really constructive, and other times it's not presented well and it pushes a child away and they just feel criticized. And I'm trying to get parents to get away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an important point, because particularly on the sports field, the that was an okay performance, but you should have done this. No. Not, we want to try to move away from that for sure. Kind of, if it was a bad game for a child and that they're not feeling good about it, it's not going to help for us to swoop in and kind of coach from the sidelines about what should have happened or what needs to happen next time. We really just need to sit with the child in their experience of what happened, kind of join with them if they, say, wow, that was a really hard game, or they're really upset, really just sit with them in that experience, in those emotions, and let them lead from there, because we know that they want to do better next time. We know that they want to bounce back. And so that's the general kind of rule of thumb, so to speak, path that I encourage parents to take. Because when the child's ready to talk, if they're ready to talk about this experience on the field, they will. And sometimes giving them kind of tools like journaling or even visualization for how they want things to shift next time, really helpful. And this is really a developmentally it's important for a kid to be developmentally able to engage in this type of stuff. But in terms of grades, we really need to have a realistic lens on, well, what's our child's context? Are they, maybe they're not as strong in math, and a B for them is awesome. And really reflecting on that and responding in that way. Maybe they are always getting A's and they all of a sudden show up with a B in math. Maybe it was a bad day. Maybe it was an off day, that kind of a thing. So again, trying to sit in the experience of what that was like for the child without giving them sort of an ultimatum on what needs to change next time. But I do think that knowing your child is super important, because I have one of my kids struggles a bit in certain subjects, and I know that if I come forth with a well, B's all right, but you really should be getting A's, that will not be helpful for my son. But there are other areas where he thrives and he brings home those A's, and that's amazing too. But there might be an off day. So I think really coming up with a balanced approach to responding to those types of things that fits with who our child is. And that takes a sense of awareness, right? Of knowing that and really living that with our child is very, very important.
I'd like to get to your books because they're going to be amazing resources for our parents. And if parents are resonating with what you're saying and they want to know more, this is just the tip of the iceberg with Dr. Kate. So you have Bounce, help your child build resilience and thrive in school, sports, life, and Step Away, the keys to resilient parenting. Can you tell us, where can we find these books, and what's inside? What kind of audience are you looking for? So who can go out and get this book and really benefit from it?
Right, absolutely. So the books are available on Amazon. They're also available on my website. And Bounce, Help Your Child Build Resilience and Thrive in School, Sports, and Life, is written for parents to help their child build the 7 pillars outlined in the book of resilience, written with the elementary school child in mind. But the cool thing is the pillars apply to all of us across the lifespan. It's just the elementary school child was on my mind because my kids were in elementary school when I wrote the book. And it outlines 7 pillars of the resilient child that come from my life as a psychologist for 20 years, my life as a mom for 18 years, as well as some of my own childhood experience. But the pillars are manage emotion and tolerate frustration, friendship and social pressure, focus and attention, building confidence, courage, motivation, and finally, there's a pillar on optimism. So that's basically that book in a nutshell. And then Step Away, the keys to resilient parenting, again, written through my lens as a psychologist for 20 plus years and my lens as a mom for 18 plus years. And really, how can we as parents optimize our own sense of well-being by becoming as resilient as possible? And how in doing that, we're modeling resilience for our kids and we're showing up for them, able to engage with them more robustly and fully. So those are the books in a nutshell.
I love that. These are great resources because the parents are listening to this and they're trying to get that. This is where they need to go. This is great. Sold on Amazon. I love it. I'd like to end, Kate, with one last question to you, and that is, why is parental self-care such a critical piece of resilient parenting? And what does it look like? More specifically, what does it look like in practice? Because this is really hard to put ourselves first and to take care of ourselves for a lot of parents, especially mothers,
Mhm.
who will just give everybody everything that they have until they have nothing. So, speaking to that parent who really wants to parent with more resilience and spread that on to her kids or his kids, what would you say?
Yes, that's a great question. And I mean, you know, it's so important to build our own sense of well-being, to optimize that, because that sets the foundation for being able to build resilience, right? And to be able to show up as we want to. And when we're in that space, we're able as parents and as people to see the possibilities on the other side of the challenges for both ourselves and our kids. And that is really, really important in terms of resilience, because challenge is real. It's going to show up regardless of who we are or how old we are, or what have you. And so we've got to be able to somehow see the possibilities on the other side of that challenge and find a way to move towards that possibility.
I'm glad you decided to be here today. Begin your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free so that you can carry help, tips, and parenting resources right in your pocket. Discover answers to your parenting questions. Download the app today. It's free. Just go to your phone's app store and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. And also remember that this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and of course the app. So go to theimpactfulparent.com to find out more. But until next time, you got this, parents. I'm just here to help.